Good afternoon and welcome to 3 o'clock with SOC. Give me a second while I welcome our Spanish-speaking neighbors. Buenas tardes, gracias por estar con nosotros hoy día en 3 p.m. con SOC. Si quieren acceso al programa, por favor marquen el número que aparece en pantalla, que es 425-436-6200. Cuando le contestan la llamada, comparten el clave, que es 627-682. Thank you for being with us once again. My name is Tammy Rivera. I'm the Executive Director and Lead Organizer for SOC, Southside Organizing Center, or SOC. I want to make sure that you know that all of our staff are still here for you. You can call us at 672-8090. You can email us at soc@socmilwaukee.org. And you can visit our website at socmilwaukee.org. And we have a whole page dedicated to information, resources, and action you can take in response to the coronavirus. Let me share with you today that we have some great guests coming on this week you don't want to miss. Tomorrow, we'll be tackling the topic of race, the most critical topics we're facing today, the unrest of the community due to racism and police brutality, and the ensuing law enforcement reform that we're working on as a community. And so we have Dr. Rob Smith, who's going to come back on with us. He's the chair of the County Human Rights Commission. He's a professor at Marquette University, and he's the director of their Center for Urban Teaching, Research, Teaching, and Outreach. And we also have Reggie Jackson. He's the president. He'll be back with us. He's the president of Nurturing Diversity Partners, and he's the head griot at the Black Holocaust Museum. So happy they're going to be with us. On Wednesday, we have Gabriela Diegues. She's a social worker and mental health provider at the 16th Street Community Health Clinic. We're hoping we can get someone from the Fire and Police Commission here on Thursday. We've sent out some requests, and the executive director there, Grisel Daldrete, has agreed to be on the program. We just have to make the schedule work. And then on Friday, we have Ches Ordóñez. He's the City of Milwaukee Equal Rights Commission, and he'll be talking to us about what that body does and what they're working on. So you really don't want to miss the program this week. The other thing I want to make sure that you know is those of you who need access to the program in Spanish, you can do so here live, but you can also see a copy of the program with a Spanish overlay on it. So you won't need to access the teleconference to get that. You can see that on our Facebook page videos or at YouTube. So please know you can always come back to them if you miss them or you want to share them with folks. And so please do be mindful of that and take advantage of it. I want to share a disclaimer before we tackle the topics of the day. The views and opinions shared here aren't always necessarily those held by SOC. We're a certain type of nonprofit and allowed to jump in certain areas, and others we're not. And so want to make sure that you all understand that. All right, critical updates. Today we don't have a special guest, but we certainly have some in this segment, but we certainly have some important topics that we're tackling. And I want to continue that. One is we want to share that we continue in solidarity with the protesters and that are raising the critical issues in our community. We're using our energies on this forum and some other initiatives that I'll talk about in a second. And so we just want to share our solidarity, and also with the families who have lost loved ones at the hands of police brutality. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with those of you also who are feeling the impacts of the coronavirus, especially those of you who've tested positive or have loved ones who have, and those of you who've had a loved one pass as a result of getting the COVID-19. No secret to any of us. We have a serious issue in this country and locally, and we're trying to tackle that in all kinds of different ways. And that has primarily to do with the racism that has been a part of the life of this country all along and continues, and police brutality, and the need for some collective law enforcement and community relations improvements and reform in law enforcement. And so I want to update you on a couple of things. We've been talking now for 2 weeks about the Collaborative Community Committee. And I'm going to schedule a time to do that presentation one more time for you here in a briefer format. But we have links to that. If I can ask the staff who's on with us today, Drea, to share that link one more time. Share the link to the video when we reported our results as a committee and to the report. And so what has happened since last week? I shared with you, we had a meeting with the mayor last Friday about support for the committee because he had announced a new commission. And so we weren't able to have agreement on Friday. And so we continue to work on trying to ensure that all of the input that you all gave, 700 plus people, to the Department of Justice on how to improve community police relationships based on their report. If you remember, the Department of Justice reviewed the police department as well as the Fire and Police Commission. And then we took that report and then they asked for input before the report. They issued the report. It got leaked because it was stalled. And then we, as some community groups, sought your input on their findings and said, how do you think we can solve these problems? And so that's what all that work of the CCC, the Collaborative Community, is. And then now we're sort of fighting still the battle that we have since the beginning. It's been a process that has been highly obstructed by several interest groups and the status quo. And we've been fighting to ensure that your voices, the 45 hubs that took place across the city, are what's heard. And we believe that vehicle to be the most useful vehicle to ensure grassroots community continued oversight, input, and impact into law enforcement reform. And we're having some struggles, which is to be expected. Social justice has always been a struggle in this country and locally, and we continue to do so. So anyway, that's where it is. We met with the mayor. We couldn't come to agreement. The CCC issued a statement. You can find it on Facebook, our Facebook and other folks' Facebook, and a press release on where we're at. And then the other update is we reactivated the Near South Side Emergency Peace Team, which has a double objective of addressing the root causes of unrest, as well as keeping peace and safety at the time. And so that steering committee has met for a second time last Friday, and they have agreed to support the CCC as one of the vehicles to address the core issues right now. But also we have a little more work to do before the steering committee can open that full process to the rest of the members. So if you have a group that's been working on the unrest and any of the root causes I discussed, law enforcement, racism, on the Near South Side, and you want to dig in with us, you can contact me at soc@socmilwaukee.org, and happy to invite folks to that greater group. Once the steering committee meets this Friday, we'll be ready to go to the larger group. And then once we're kind of settled, we're going to reach out citywide with the other groups who are working on it so we can have a citywide response, not just the Near South Side. And then lastly, you all know we did a survey. We wanted to make sure that the South Side had their own voice, told their own story as they gave input into Police Chief Morales's review by the Fire and Police Commission, who are his supervisor. They requested input from me, from SOC, and if you ask an organizer what they think, they generally will say, let me go ask the residents. And so the results of that survey, which was due at 12 noon We compiled that. Edith, thank you very much. Edith does our grants and compliance, and with that, she does our assessment surveys. And so she crunched the numbers, and I was able to edit that and add. And so we have those results. I gave you a sneak peek on Friday, not very successfully. If you remember, I tried to share my screen on this platform, and well, technology is not one of my strengths. So Marisol's going to help me out today. I'm going to ask her to bring that back up. And so here's what you all said. Now, there were 233 surveys submitted, but if you recall, we said you had to live within our district. So out of those 233, we were able to verify 133, I believe it was, surveys from within our district. And we added 3 questions in addition to the areas the FPC was asking input on. And so our overall question was, what did you think of Chief Morales's overall performance? And then the FPC, and then we asked you what were the top 3 things you think he did well. What are the 3 areas he needed improvement? You'll see that later in the survey. But here, then the FPC wanted to know your thoughts on his leadership, governance, budget management, public safety, standard operating procedures, and policy changes, technology initiatives, community relations, and communications with the FPC Commission, the FPC Department. Those are 2 different kind of bodies, even though they work closely together, city officials, community stakeholders, and the media. If you add up all those individual scores, and we can talk about them in a little bit more, the overall score, the math on that is this initial survey, and mind you, it's 100 and some people. So, right, we have 90,000 residents on the near south side, about half or more are adults, so 45,000. But from Monday evening to Thursday morning, those of you who responded, the overall score was 3.43. So what does the scale look like? 1 on the scale would have been very poor, 2 poor, 3 neither poor nor good, and 4 good, 5 very good. So it seems like overall those of you who responded are at about a 3.43. So just missing the mark of halfway between neutral and good. If you look at the chart above, what you will see is that the lowest score there seems to be the 3.20 score, which is standard operating procedures and policy changes. We're not necessarily sure what that's about, right? I can add some anecdotal information, which is there was a huge fight, if you remember, around SOP 130, which was not allowing our police force to be used by the federal government with ICE looking for undocumented or expired documents, folks that are undocumented in our community. And so that ended up with the FPC agreeing with the vast majority of our South Side, which was, we don't want our law enforcement cooperating with ICE unless there's a judicial warrant, i.e. there's reason for them to be involved. Otherwise, they need to do policing, not the work of ICE. And so I don't know, and my assumption, maybe that score is low because Chief Morales at first said, before he became chief and in his early time, that he was against that, and then sort of he took a different position later and said that he would cooperate. And indeed, we saw a major incident in the community where our law enforcement was cooperating with ICE. But now the FPC made a policy, and they can't unless there's a judicial warrant. And then we go up from there. It looks like the next kind of lowest score would have been on budget management. The highest score, let's see, would that be 3.59, would be his leadership. And then individually, overall performance. And so that's what you said, folks. We wanted to make sure, as we state often here, that your voice is heard. We went ahead and forward that to the FPC. so that they can take that into consideration with all the other things. I had some folks contact me and say, "Oh, I missed the deadline," and we shared with them that our deadline was 12 noon on Thursday, but the FPC was still receiving input on Friday. So we just directed you all who don't live in our district to give your input there, and we directed those of you who missed our deadline to go ahead and give your input to the FPC. And if you haven't, I still would send it in today if I were you, because they're tackling that right now. They can decide whether they'll still take that or not. And I was at a meeting with a virtual meeting, and I heard Griselda Aldrete from the FPC said they would still take some more input if you all wanted to. So there you have it, folks. At least that's where we're at right now. Let me say some quick hellos. If you have any questions about anything I've shared so far, that survey is going to be on our website in totality. You'll be able to see each area. You can't see who said it, right? Because the whole purpose was to give you some sense that you wouldn't be singled out or retaliated against for your opinions. And so we took all those answers, put it all together without anybody's identity, and we'll have it on our website very soon that you can see the report in total. So it'll have each area, how the overall score was, how the scores broke down, very poor, etc. And then everybody's comments. We didn't do any edits. So it's all there. Hola, Diana. Nice to see you. Hola, Jerry. Hola, Elsa. If you have any questions for us, let me know. We want to be here for you and get things answered. So we'll be paying attention to that and getting to you. All right. With that, I'd like to invite on our coronavirus coordinator. She's also the coordinator for the forum, Marlene Duran.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tammy.
Hola.
All right, everyone. So, as per usual, I'd like to give you guys a phase 3 update on what's going on in Milwaukee. So Milwaukee has made steady progress in reducing the impact of COVID-19, according to the Milwaukee Health Department. But we still have a long way to go. We will continue to focus on the importance of continuation and resumption of business and activities for all sectors of our economy. As previously stated, our city's advancement through the phases is driven by the 5 key indicators and gating criteria. These measures are reassessed every Friday, but advancement through the phases can only occur 14 days after we are in a new phase. This enables us to hold steady for one incubation period or 14 days before considering a move to the next phase. So the next reassessment and reevaluation of all numbers related to COVID-19 won't happen until June 19th. If we regress to red for any indicator over the 14-day period, red meaning we're falling behind, we will need to hold for another 7 days before the Milwaukee Public Health Department will need to hold for another 7 days before moving forwards with any updates. So as promised, we're focusing on mental health this week. This week is all going to be about mental health, resources for mental health. Mental health providers will be coming on the forum to speak about how COVID-19 and the current Black Lives Matter movement has impacted the Latinx and African American population's views on race and all of the stress and trauma that's contributed to this. So we'll be sharing resources that you can utilize located on the south side of Milwaukee. And that being said, for Monday, so today we're having a psychologist named Mandy Degner from Walker's Point Community Clinic. She's a psychotherapist, not psychologist, my bad. Tuesday, we're having Coral Centro, Samantha Sanchez, come on. She's going to cover mental health resources available from Coral Centro. Lots of fun stuff coming up. Wednesday, we're going to be having a clinical social worker, like Tammy has said earlier today. She's going to speak about COVID and mental health and how the impact of COVID-19 on the Latinx population has been impacted by like immigration, economic distress, things of that sort. And she's going to go down and she's going to get down and dirty in all the specifics. And she's going to talk about ways that you can improve your mental health and ways to stabilize your mental health on a daily basis, things that you can do every day that will improve your mental health and make you feel a little bit better during this time. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our COVID-19 segment guest for today, Mandy. So,
hi.
Hi, Mandy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, we're glad you're coming on the forum with us today and to share what Walker's Point Community Clinic has to offer, and what mental health resources she has to offer. But Mandy today would like to first explain to us exactly. Well, first of all, please introduce yourself and kind of give the public a little bit of a rundown on what Walker's Point Community Clinic is.
So, as you said, my name is Mandy. I am a licensed professional counselor, IT, psychotherapist, at the clinic. And Walker's Point Community Clinic is located on 2nd and Bruce Street, and we serve clients who are uninsured. So anyone who doesn't have insurance can come to the clinic for physical health or mental health care, and they won't be charged. And so, okay, introduce myself, the clinic. Yes, the majority of our clients are from the Latino community, and so all of our services and our physicians and therapists are bilingual, or we have interpreters. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you explain to people watching this forum what exactly does a psychotherapist and family support specialist do, especially at Walker's Point?
So there are like 3 or 4 of us who work with mental health care at the clinic. There's a psychologist, excuse me, and an integrative health coach, and then we also have a social worker, and then there is myself. I work with people who are bilingual or English speaking, and we talk with people about improving their mental health or dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, coping with loss. And finding community. Also, one of the big things is we help people find community resources that are affordable and accessible for them.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to give everyone a foundation of what mental health is today, right, Mandy? Yes. So we're going to no, not me, mainly Mandy. But I'm going to ask you a few questions. So what is mental health? Can you define mental health for individuals?
Sure. So when we talk about mental health, a lot of us think about we usually think about the disorders. Like we think about anxiety, we think about depression, we think about, schizophrenia and suicide, those things that are really, really serious. But those are some of the conditions that are associated with when our mental health isn't well. So mental health is actually something that's just as important for us all to be aware of as our physical health in our actual bodies. And the mental health and wellness practices are just as important as things like eating healthy and exercising are for our physical bodies, because our mental health affects not just our emotions and how we feel, but also how we think and how we act and how we socialize with others. And it also really affects how we, kind of go about being in the world. How we go about, like, for example, if my mental health isn't well, I'm not going to have a lot of initiative to go out and look for a new job if I'm unemployed. Or if I'm really having a lot of anxiety, I'm not going to be able to, hold a job or things, you know what I mean? Things like that. So our mind is actually very crucial to helping us keep our bodies healthy, because our thoughts do affect the way that we act.
Can you give an example of how mental health can have a physical effect on the body? What kinds of symptoms do you usually see?
Okay, yeah. So one of the things that is really something that I try and talk with people a lot about is that, like, our mental health and our physical health really aren't that different. So the kind of just the way that the medical world is, and Western medicine is that we've separated them. So there's, we talk about things being all in our head, or, something actually being wrong with us, when we all know that, like, for example, if I have a sore throat and a fever and a cough, we all know right now that means I probably should go get tested for COVID-19. But if I am, like, not, if I'm feeling achy and not wanting to get out of bed and sleeping all of the time, we just think, like, oh, I'm just sad or something like that. We don't think to get that checked out. But that's something that can be just as alarming as some physical symptoms, such as physical symptoms of COVID-19, so that, we may not go to a doctor, but we could go to a therapist, or, even just, a clergy member or a friend, and say, hey, I'm feeling really, really tired all the time. I'm achy. I'm sad. I want to sleep all of the time. Those are things that are, they manifest themselves in our physical bodies just as much as physical ailments do, as if we were to, have a, sickness.
Mm. And do you feel, based on the information, do you feel that it can accumulate over time?
Absolutely. Yes. So we all know that, like, when we're sad or scared or anxious, we tend to isolate ourselves, or we may not talk about it, or, it's something that since it's not as obvious in terms of, like, we can't just see it on the outside. Like, if someone were to break their leg or something like that, we could see that. So a lot of times people, when they're feeling depressed or when they're feeling anxious, it'll accumulate and they'll gradually stay more isolated from their friends. They may miss some work. And as those things accumulate, it affects the way that we take care of our bodies. So if I don't want to get out of bed and I want to sleep all of the time, it might affect my my eating. I may either eat all of the time or not eat at all. So being, that could increase just, when we don't eat and we don't nourish our bodies, it increases our susceptibility to illness. And it also can, when we're not moving our bodies around as much, we can be in more pain, or anxiety and depression can also, accumulate in our bodies and cause physical pain. There may not be a physical cause for it, but because we're so sad and we're so isolated, or we're so upset and worried, we hold that all in our bodies. We hold that tension. So if we think about, like, when we're really, really anxious or something like that, or scared, we kind of go like this, and, like, we're waiting for something to, happen, and we're bracing ourselves. But if we're constantly feeling like that, it's going to cause, like, long-term muscle tension, which can lead to headaches and things like that. So it all builds up.
Wow, that's very important to know, because a lot of people kind of don't think those two things are connected.
Exactly. And it also goes the other way too. So if I'm someone, like, I'll use myself as an example. I get migraine headaches. When I get a migraine headache, I'm really irritable. I'm really angry. I don't want to talk with people. And because I'm in a lot of pain. So if someone's in a lot of physical pain all of the time, for whatever reason, and they don't know because they haven't been to a doctor, their mental health will deteriorate too, because it's hard to live our lives day to day, day in and day out when we're in a lot of pain or when we're suffering. So it's sometimes one of those things where like we don't know what comes first. Was I depressed first, or was I in pain first? Did one cause the other?
Right. Mandy, we have a question here from Chino. He's asking, is Walker's Point Clinic accepting new patients?
So Walker's Point does they're doing their lottery, which means you can walk in and be given a number or a time to be seen. We're not taking new patients now, but we are what they refer to as like an urgent care clinic. They will see you, but then they will also help you find more permanent primary care for like 3 months. So they'll see you for 3 months and then help you to transition to a more permanent primary care. But you can be seen there, yes.
And regarding mental health specialists, with COVID-19 right now, is a majority of mental health practice used through telehealth?
Yes. So right now, those of us that are working with mental health care at Walker's Point Community Clinic are doing virtual visits or telephone visits.
Okay. And do you feel that it's a doable process for a lot of individuals to do telehealth, mental health?
Yeah, it has been for the clients that I've worked with. We have done really well in either doing something virtually like videos like this or over the phone. So,
so it's
there,
pretty
it's pretty doable. I mean, I've had patients that I worked with before COVID-19 that thought, well, I don't know how this is going to work, but we've been able to either use a video or use phone and consistently maintain that care, which is really important.
Okay. And you can't, for Walker's Point Community Clinic, you should, if you want to be a patient, you can't have health insurance.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So let's talk about self-care. What is self-care, Mandy?
So, like I said, taking care of our mental and emotional health is just as important as physical health. And sometimes when we hear, at least when I've heard about self-care lately, it's become kind of a buzzword where people are like, oh, self-care means things that like have to cost money or have to be like way out of the ordinary and special and, you know, taking time out, when a lot of us don't have a lot of extra time. We have families, we have children, we have work, and we're like, well, I don't have time to do anything, you know, like, I don't know, whatever. Like, you know, taking long baths or something like that, which are all really great things, but a lot of us don't have time for that or don't have the financial capability to do things like go out to eat or spend, you know, money on, you know, going shopping or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out of your way or whatever. Some of the really good self-care practices are very similar to what we do for our physical health, and that I was like, wait, where am I going? So there's a lot of these things are free. So I'm just going to look at some of the things that I kind of just brainstormed this morning. And one of the most important things, at least in my opinion, is to have support, have a support system, have those friends, or because a lot of us have been alone for a while or been, you know, just with our immediate family group. And so a lot of us are really feeling like this, like, you know, I feel really cut off from these support systems that I may have had before the safer at home order. So even if it's just to check in with someone, give someone a call and just talk about what's going on, make sure they're okay. Say, hey, how are you doing? I was thinking about you. And that means a lot. That can help. Sometimes it can help you and it can help them too, just to get through a lonely day. Or, you know, for some people with families, it can help break up the I mean, I know school is over now, but like sometimes the day where it was like, I don't want to do online school anymore. I'm sick of this. I don't know how to, you know, and it can be helpful in supporting other families that are in the same boat as you, because a lot of us, this is uncharted territory for everyone. We don't know what's next and
Right.
having that support is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And laughing, of course. It's always fun to be able to, like, even if you can't get together with someone, to be able to talk on the phone with them or over a video and just laugh.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question from Jetty. I hope I didn't butcher that. Does the clinic have a psychiatrist who dispenses medications?
We do not have a psychiatrist, but they we do have nurse practitioners, and there's a physician on staff who they can prescribe medications for depression and anxiety and some of those things, because we don't have a psychiatrist on staff, but they can dispense medications.
Okay. All right. I think we've covered a majority of things. If you want to go over any mental health resources that we didn't cover available that you know of.
Oh yeah, okay. So I was just talking like some of the other, mental health resources that may not, you don't need to be seen by a therapist or a counselor or anyone, is some of the things to remember too, is just to be able to get good exercise, even if it's just getting outside, taking a walk around the block, eating regularly and as healthily as you can, which means balanced. Connect with nature if you can. Being outside is a lot easier now that it's warm outside. And just being able to know yourself and know when something feels like too much. Just like when you're, if you're exercising or doing something physical and you fall and it's like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Know yourself and your emotions too, that sometimes it's like, oh, this doesn't feel right, or I've been feeling like this for a long time. You don't have to be alone with that. You can ask for help. Just like if you were to break your leg, you're not going to walk around on that for a month. You don't need to walk around for a month feeling like this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you asked some of the other resources. So obviously the clinic is a resource if you need health coaching, counseling, resources, connection to resources. And then there's also, because the clinic, we work with people who are not insured. If you do have insurance but are not sure where else to go, or because it can be costly, Aurora Family Services is committed to offering mental health care for people and for families at whatever financial cost people can afford. And then there is a group that will be starting virtually at the clinic. I believe July. It's in July. Yes. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. It's called Venga y Relájese, and it's in Spanish, and it's for women. And it will start on July 8th, and it's 3 Wednesdays, so July 8th, 15th, and 22nd. And it is either at 10 o'clock in the morning or 5 p.m. So there are 2 different options. And if there are women who are interested in that, it's free, and they can call the clinic to sign up.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's going to be such a great resource for people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mandy.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add on for today?
No.
All right. No, that's perfectly fine. So,
okay, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Marlene. I'm grateful that we can get to the point where we can focus on mental health for you all. I'll say a couple hellos and see if there's anything else we need to respond to. Hola, Chino. Jetty says, hola, Marlene. Charlie says, my favorite part of the day. Hi, Marlene. Hola, Charlie. Chino got you got your question answered, so did Jetty. All right, folks, we're going to move on to our next segment and ask for our Civic Engagement Manager, Gabe Charles, to join us and give us our update.
Hey everyone, so I'll share my screen in just a second because that's for the census portion, but there I am. Okay, so I'll share my screen in just a second. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Hope you all had a good weekend. We're able to get some sun. I'm just going to let you all know what's coming up this week for different committee meetings, especially common council meetings, because there is one this week that's going to be very important. So this morning we had a special committee meeting of the licenses committee. Then tomorrow at 9 a.m. we have the Common Council meeting, and a lot of the little things that I've been talking about on the forums will be talked about in this Common Council meeting tomorrow. Because remember, what comes out of each subcommittee is then brought up to the full Common Council meeting to be passed or approved. So a lot will be happening at this meeting tomorrow. Then we also have a youth council meeting on Wednesday at 3 p.m., another licenses committee meeting on the 18th, Thursday, and a housing authority meeting is also happening on Thursday at 1:30 p.m. So I always encourage folks to be tuned into those meetings, especially tomorrow for the Common Council meeting, where everything that happens at the subcommittee level will be brought up and major things will be talked about. And in just a sec, I'll talk about a resolution that was just introduced as well, that I think would be of a lot of importance to folks. Other than that, I want to let everyone know that Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley and County Board Chairwoman Marcelia Nicholson announced today that June 19th will now be a floating holiday for county employees to commemorate Juneteenth Day, the end of slavery in America. And in a statement from Crowley, he says, "I am hopeful that our employees will be able to take June 19th as a day on, not a day off, in order to fully support Black lives, liberation, and the vision of Milwaukee County to achieve racial equity and become the healthiest county in Wisconsin." And so we're really pleased to see that this is now a holiday that county employees can take and to commemorate the end of the enslavement of Black people by white people in the USA. So we're always happy to see movement in that direction. So something that will be discussed tomorrow in the Common Council meeting is a resolution introduced by Alderman Perez that calls for a 10% reduction of the police department's budget. And he stated in a press release, our citizens have been marching in the streets for the past several weeks demanding change. They deserve to be heard. If adopted, this proposal will begin a community discussion of how we could make that change. Although the Common Council does not set police policies and procedures, it can urge police reform and community investment through the budget process. Because remember, it's the Common Council that approves the annual city budget. And so the way that they can become a part of this police reform is through the budget. This resolution directs the budget director of the city to prepare a model 2021 budget for the Milwaukee Police Department that reflects a 10% decrease. And it also expresses the Common Council's intention to use these funds for other purposes related to enhancing public health and safety, like the Health Department, 414 Life that authored the Blueprint for Peace, the Fire and Police Commission, the Housing Trust Fund, and the Clerk's Office, among others. So again, tune into that Common Council meeting tomorrow because it's going to be really important. A lot will be discussed, including the Safe Vote program that I talked about last week. So a lot will be discussed. Tune into that. I will definitely have updates for you on Wednesday with that. And now I will share my screen to talk a little bit about what's going on in Milwaukee with the census. So give me just a second here. There it is. So this is Wisconsin. As you can see, it's outlined in purple. And over here on the left side, you can see the Wisconsin response rate. So right now we're at 68% as a state in our response rate. And you can see the 2010 final self-response was 73.5%. So we still haven't met that goal, and we definitely want to surpass what we did last year because we always want to do better, right? So I'm going to now move into Milwaukee because we saw what we did statewide, but that's just an average of the whole state. So let's see what's going on in Milwaukee. Takes a bit to zoom in correctly. So let me just click Milwaukee. So Milwaukee is only at 56.4%. So though Wisconsin as a whole is at 68%, Milwaukee as a city is only at 56.4%. And our self-response rate in 2010 was 64.2. So again, we have not reached that mark and we absolutely want to surpass it. But now I want to move even closer in to see what's happening on the near south side, because you can see over here on the right, the different colors that indicate the percentages. And the whole reason that this exists is to show us the different census tracts and what areas of Milwaukee are hard to count or that have low response rate historically. So we don't want to not be counted. So it's important that we take a look at this and see what is actually happening on our south side. So let's change this to census tract. Let's zoom in a little more so we can see street names. So we know our district is from Pierce up here down to Oklahoma, which is down here. And then 43rd Street, which is just a little bit west of what this shows, to 1st Street, which is over here. But you can see that we have one of the orangest areas, which means the lowest percentage of response rate in the entire city in these census tracts. So let's click on one of these census tracts to see. 36% in this census tract, and the 2010 final self-response was 50.9%. So again, this is our area of the city, right? And this is where a lot of the people watching right now probably live in these areas and probably care a lot about your family, you care a lot about your community, you want to make sure that you're getting the funding that you deserve in your community for different public resources and services. So yeah, you can see a lot of these are still under 35%. Here we have a 39.1% one. Just going to keep clicking around. But as you can see, they're all that same orange color, meaning that they are 30 to 40%. So please, I share this so that everyone is encouraged to share with their friends and family to complete the census, because this is going to affect your community, that specific local community, a lot. And we all want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that each part of our community is getting what it's deserved, that is getting the political representation that it deserves. So encourage your friends and family to be doing this, because we don't want to have those low percentages at the end of the day. And as a reminder that if you do it ahead of time, the people that are sent out by the Census Bureau to collect the information won't go to your door because they'll have the data for your household. So if you do it ahead of time, again, immigration status doesn't matter, documented or undocumented, you should be doing the census and your information is private. And if you do it ahead of time, then no one will come to your door to ask you for the 9 questions that are on the census. So just keep in mind that as long as you do it ahead of time, no one's going to come to your door and everyone will be counted that way. And that's what we want to see. So I will leave it back with Tammy, and I will be back with you later this week for updates, especially on that coming council meeting.
Thank you, Gabe. That was super helpful to encourage people to participate and let people know where we're struggling to get those numbers up. I just want to clarify. So the census is done every 10 years. What we do in between there is the Bureau does the annual American Community Survey, like in between. They don't do as, of course, as intense as the every 10 years. But just to clarify, it's every 10 years. And that was super helpful. And so let's see if we have some more hellos or some more questions that we need to respond to. Chino, shocking to see this broken down this way. Yes, it is. And it tells us where we need to focus our energies. My team here at SOC, our team, and the rest of the folks working on this issue to tackle those orange spots and get them in to the blue. Right now, what I'd like to do is ask for Marisol Diaz, our communications manager, to come on, and she's going to give us an update on the campaign, the promotion we had last week around graduation. While they're working on that, hola Maricano. Want to remind you what's coming up next week while they queue up the graduation PowerPoint promotion from last week, and they announced the winner. So I'm going to go ahead and remind you what's coming up next week and wait for them to tell me that they're ready. Okay. So Marisol is ready now with the video. And so Jomar is the winner and his family of the gift card entry. And so please have your parents contact us at SOC at socmilwaukee.gov. We really wanted to make sure, since graduation was canceled for many folks, that their hard work, their achievements were celebrated. And so we combined graduation with making sure that your family got counted in the census, and that's how folks entered the drawing. We want to make sure that our graduates count, not only today during quarantine to celebrate them, but for the next 10 years. So again, please have the family of Jomar contact us at SOC at socmilwaukee.gov. Oh my goodness, at soc@milwaukee.org. We've been sharing a lot of links lately, and so se me turbo. All right, folks, I want to remind you, you don't want to miss tomorrow. We're going to be talking with Dr. Rob Smith, Chair of the County Human Rights Commission, Marquette University law professor, and the director at Marquette University of the Urban Research Teaching and Outreach Center, as well as Reggie Jackson, the president of Nurturing Diversity Partners and the head griot at the Black Holocaust Museum. On Wednesday, we have Gabriela Dieguez with us, social worker, mental health provider at 16th Street Clinic. Hopefully, we'll have someone from the FPC with us on Thursday. They can update us on, give us a little orientation to what the FPC is, and update us what's happening with Chief Morales' review. And then on Friday, we have Ches Ordóñez, the City of Milwaukee Equal Rights Commission Chair. And so we want to thank you for being with us. And we want to thank those funders who allow us to do the work that we do or invest in the work that we do, and who helped us to also adapt during quarantine to make sure that we're here with you during this challenging time. So we're going to leave you with our thank you. I'm going to ask you to be with us again and to be safe.
Hello, SOC viewers. I'm Isabel from the Polonia neighborhood and 2020 graduate from Zablocki Elementary. We would like to thank everyone for supporting our 3 o'clock with SOC Live show and for completing our SOC survey. In addition to thanking our residents for tuning in and sharing our show, we would also like to thank the following sponsors: Wisconsin Voices, Community Development Block Grants, Neo-Philanthropy State Infrastructure Fund, Movement Voter Project, Catholic Campaign for Human Development, Zilber Foundation, City of Milwaukee Office of Violence Prevention, Ties Foundation, City of Milwaukee Promise Zones, all the faithful individuals who support SOC through their personal donations. Thank you.